Hello there, welcome to Rajiv Gandhi IAS Academy, and this is me Nawazish Nehal, and today I'll be discussing daily news analysis for the 8th January. So, moving on with the first news. The first news is about NSO and the GDP, that is National Statistical Organization, estimated the financial year 22 GDP to be growth at 9.2%, and India's gross domestic product, that is GDP, is expected to grow at this rate in the current financial year, following last fiscal 7.3% contraction. So in last fiscal year there was this contraction of 7.3%, and now it is estimated that it will grow at about 9.2%. It was done by National Statistical Office, and it said that it was the first advanced estimate of the economic output released. And also there are some key points related to this news, except this 7.3 and 9.2 fact, that NSA however made clear that they are early projections and that did not factor actual performance, and these are only projections, and it did not factor the actual performance of various indicators as well as measures that may be taken to contain the spread of pandemic. So the measures which will be taken to contain the spread of pandemic is not taken care in this. And GDP at constant price of 2011-12 in the year 2021-22 is estimated at about 147.54 lakh crore. So this is the estimated GDP, that all the service we are doing in India, all the service and all the income that is generated, that will be across 147.54 lakh crore. That's the total GDP, estimated GDP. And the provisional estimate of GDP for this year was about 135. So there is 135 lakh crore, of course. So there is this gap of 12 lakh crore, and the real GVA, that is gross value added at basic price, is estimated at 135.22 lakh crore in 2021, and it was like 124.53 lakh crore in 2020 to 2021, and that the GVA increases about 8.6%. That is estimated GVA is estimated up to 8.6%, and GDP is estimated up to 9.2%. And after a 6 to 6.5% rise in the quarterly, we all know that the third quarter of 2022 will be a rise. They are estimating this kind of thing, and the GDP expansion is set to slip. After this third quarter, it is set to slip 5% in the ongoing quarter. So this is the whole thing about this news and all those things. So we all know that whenever this pandemic is happening or a lockdown is happening, there is this effect on GDP, on our, like, due to pandemic our Indian economy is hit. So what are different aspect of a pandemic on an economy, especially Indian economy? We will discuss that. So first, the GDP growth rate is influenced. So how it is influenced? So the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that is OECD, has slashed India growth forecast for 2021 by 110 basic points, and 2022. And also the pharmaceutical industry also, it also, the economy is impacted by pharmaceutical industry also. So the pharmaceutical industry, we all know, have deep linkage to China, and the supply chain of raw material of drug, due to that, has take a hit. Okay, and the production facilities are there in India, in Himachal Pradesh, and that these the Himachal Pradesh is considered as the largest pharma hub of Asia, and they have warned of this thing. And actual pharmaceutical ingredients, also called as bulk drugs, are significant ingredients in the manufacture of drugs. And the Hubei province, there is this Hubei province, which is one of the epicenter of coronavirus, was the hub of API manufacturing industry. So we can imagine that the actual pharmaceutical industry, that is API, can have a impact on our economy. And India is heavily import dependent for APIs from China. So when this kind of pandemic increases, we all know currently our relationship with China is not that much good, and when a pandemic will hit across the world, our relationship will further deteriorate in the economical section also. And also automobile industry took a hit due to this pandemic, because China is one of the leading supplier of auto components to India, and about 27% of automobile imports are from China itself. And the coronavirus is to have an impact on the Indian automotive industry, and this pandemic have is about to have an impact on automotive industries also. And therefore the automobile component are and forging industry are already reduced their production due to market condition. And on account of this impending change, BS6 emission norms from BS4 is also going to happen from is has happened from April 2020. So automobile industry was also, due to changing to BS6, they were hit a little. So these are the factor on automobile industry. And then this stock market also have an impact on the economy during pandemic time, because Indian stock market registered one of its worst crashes in a singular day. We all know that 28th February 2020 it happened, and the market fell drastically. So these all kind of things are interconnected, and our currency rates are also interconnected to the pandemic, because the month of March is typically good for Indian currency, as remittance for both overseas citizen and companies tends to boost the exchange rate. But if suppose in the month of March there is a lockdown, countrywide lockdown, so that will not happen March, because that is the closing year. And in the past decade the rupees has appreciated like 7 times against the dollar in March, but March 2021 or 2022 could be hard on the exchange rate. So these are the different factors, on which pandemic could have on Indian economy. And also there is this pandemic may hit the global economy, and it has already hit, because the world's economy could grow at slowest rate. Like we know the period of recession which was there in 2009 and 10. So at that period it was worst affected. And again after this corona period it's also affected. There is this fall in customer demand, because customer has less amount, so they are not trying to buy products. So there's this fall in customer demand also. And also we all know travel industries have been like hit like anything, and the number of cases diagnosis is increasing around world every day, and many countries have introduced travel restrictions again. So due to that travel industry will be affected a lot. And also many beneficiaries are given, because customer goods giants like they are running bank is for example has been a boost in sales for its Dettol and Lysol product. And also the price of gold is often considered a safe haven in times of this kind of uncertainty, has also increased. And due to this kind of thing, the world economy might got a hit. So moving on to the next news is about FCRA. And from many a times this FCRA is in news, because there was this mission of charity was there. And in what happened that previously Ministry of Home Affairs sorry for that. So previously Ministry of Home Affairs was not allowing the FCRA registered of this MOC, missionaries of charity. Now they have allowed it. So and the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act registration is mandatory to receive foreign demands, so foreign donation. So it is kind of mandatory to receive foreign donation. And similarly the registration was renewed of this MOC, this missionary of charity as MOC we can say it. So was received renewed, making MOC eligible to receive foreign fund in the bank account. Even this issue was also raised in British Parliament. So this became a concern for our country's sovereignty also, because if British Parliament, if something of India is discussed, that is a issue of country sovereignty. And the registration of about like 6,000 NGOs ceased to operate from January 1st, as the MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, refused to renew their application, or the NGO didn't apply for this renewal. So what are different amendments that are there in this amendment of act? in 2020. So first is the prohibition to accept foreign contribution, and the act bars public servant from receiving foreign contribution. And public servant include any person who is in service or paid by government or remunerated by government for the performance of public duty. So public servant cannot receive any foreign fund. First is this amendment. And second, transfer of foreign contribution is there. So the act prohibits the transfer of foreign contribution to any other person not registered. So if someone is not registered and if some foreign contribution is going through some registered account, that is not permissible, permissated. And Aadhaar is held mandatory for all office bearers. And then there is this FCRA account should be there. So one FCRA account should be created at SBI New Delhi. So this is like they have make it compulsory that in New Delhi they should have a branch. And similarly, there is this reduction in use of foreign contribution for administrative purpose. So the previously the act proposes that not more than 20% of the total foreign funds received could be like used for administrative expense. And in 2010 it was like 50% can be used for administrative expense. Now only 20%. So in this 20%, if suppose someone is giving salary, that will come as under administration part. So in that 20% they have to cover these all things. And also there is this surrender of certificate is allowed. What is it mean? So the act allows the central government to permit a person to surrender their registration certificate. So they have to give up the registration certificate, and they have to submit their registration certificate permanently to a local office or the authorized person for availing this FCRA. So what are different issues related to it? So the FCRA regulates the receipt of funding from source outside India to NGOs working in India. So it prohibits the receipt of foreign contribution. So it prohibits kind of prohibit foreign contribution. One we can say about this thing, which is detrimental to national interest. So one thing is, one word is very catchy here, that is national interest. So government will decide if this contribution will come under national interest or not. So this national interest word is very like in controversy, that how will one define this word national interest. Because in a judgment, in Pegasus judgment, we all know, in Pegasus judgment of the Supreme Court, there was this judgment in the Supreme Court that national interest should be like there due to some reason and should be justified. National interest should be justified, and someone cannot simply randomly put anything under national interest. The national interest should be justified, and the Supreme Court in the recent Pegasus judgment they said it. And also the act held that government can refuse permission if it believes that the donation are not in national interest. So how can we define if that is national interest or not? Or also there is no clear guidance what is this national interest. And this there many NGOs are saying that it's going against their right to speech and right freedom of association. Like we all know, article 19 and 1A and 1C are there. So it's like saying that it's going against this kind of fundamental right. And the free of speech like is affected through this in two ways. So first, by allowing some political group to receive foreign donation, and disallowing other or can induce bias. So first, NGO need to tread carefully when they criticize the government, that knowing that too much criticism could cost their survival. So the NGO could not criticize the government because government is controlling this FCRA. So that is kind of issue for NGOs also. And FCRA norms can reduce critical voices by this way, by declaring them to be like against the national interest or the public interest. So what is the way forward then? There must be some way forward, because I have already told many times that whenever we are approaching to our towards answer, we have to give the solution also. So the excessive regulation shouldn't, because excessive regulation on foreign contribution may affect work of the NGO. So the excessive regulation should be ended completely, and only a minor regulation should be there, and the government should watch it and not put it them under regulation. They can watch it but not put. If they are going something doing something against, then only they could regulate it. And the regulation should not hamper sharing of resources. Even if the regulation is there, the sharing of resources or the foreign funds to the needy people in India should not be hampered. So this is the thing about like complete FCRA. And I guess that we have in this daily news analysis we have dealt FCRA so many times that like I'm now pretty much sure that they can revolve in prelims, or if not in prelims then in mains, about this kind of topic, because whenever something is there we can accept that also. Okay, so moving on to the next news. Next news about this uniform civil code, that is uniform law. So what was the news? So citizen belonging to different religion and denomination follow different like property and matrimonial laws, and which are in front of national unity. So national unity, government is saying that national unity is one of the major cause to bring this uniform civil code. And the center has informed the Delhi High Court with these all thing, while giving the draft for uniform civil code. So government is saying they are doing this for national unity. And the center also said it was awaiting the report of the Law Commission of India. So Law Commission of India is about to make a report on uniform civil code. So they are awaiting this report. And the expression uniform civil code does donates only personal laws. So in personal laws which are related to like marriages, first is marriage, second is divorce, third is maintenance, fourth is custody, fifth is guardianship of children, guardianship of children, guardianship of children. Sixth is inheritance, how the property should be inherited. And the seventh one is succession, how it should be given. And eighth one is adoption. So the personal laws which are working on like this thing should be marriage, divorce, maintenance, custody, guardianship of children, inheritance, succession, and adoption. So these are the eight factors which government is working to bring a uniform civil code throughout the India. And government is giving the reference of article 44, which is under DPSP, that is directive principle of the state policy. In under article 44, the constitution creates an obligation upon the states to endeavor to secure for citizen a uniform civil code throughout the country. So under DPSP this civil code could be asked, and this could be a prelims question as well. That's the civil code is inspired from which article, so we can say that. So like there are many pros of this civil code and as well as cons. So let us discuss the pros first. So the first pros, as we all know, that it will provide equal status to all citizens, whether it's a Muslim, Hindu, Dalit, or Christian. It will provide equal status to those. And also it will give a gender parity, because right now we know that marriage age has been raised from 18 to 21, and now both girls and boys can be should be married at age of 21. So the gender parity is removed here, means promoted here, and to accommodate aspiration of the young population, because like the future of the India which we want to make is like free from these kind of things, and like based on secular principle. So this kind of thing can help. And also the national integration, because a single law will govern whole India. So this kind of thing can put up national integration into a bigger picture. And also it can bypass the continuous issue of reforms of existing personal laws, because many a times we have seen, like in triple talaq case, what happened, that these laws were reformed earlier, that now that triple talaq is not applicable. So these kind of personal laws are continuously continuous on the issues of reforms. So that could bypass it, and one uniform civil code could bypass it. Now moving on to the cons of the civil code, is there is this practical difficulties due to diversity of India. So India, we all know that is so much diverse that a single law cannot define a person of Kashmir to the person of Kerala, because there is diversity here, and we have to preserve our diversity. So the how government will preserve the diversity part here, diversity quotient here, is a question still. And perception of UCC has encroachment on religious freedom, because now there is this Hindu marriage act is there, and there is this Sharia law, like Muslim marriage act is there. So which is based on Sharia. So how these kind of things can be manipulated into a uniform thing, so that could be seen as an encroachment of religious freedom, and we all know that religious freedom is a part of our fundamental rights. So that is an encroachment on our fundamental right itself. So perception of UCC could be a bad thing when it comes to religious freedom. How government gonna tackle it is still a question. And also there is this interference of state in personal matter. See, I am getting married to someone, that is my personal matter. If you are getting married to someone, that is your personal matter. Why government is interfering to our personal matter? Why government is interfering to our life? And in like article 21 we have this life, not just simple life with liberty is there. So why government is not giving us liberty to choose our personal matters? That is also a concern or the cons of the uniform civil code. And also there is this sensitivity and tough task, because we all know that due to the diversity of India, uh, people are very like people held these personal laws as very close to themselves. So that is very sensitive to touch at this point of time. So that is the thing, and time is not yet suitable for this reform, because the mass is still not that much educated that a civil code is necessary for India. Or even if that is educated, the demography of the India is not allowing to have a civil code at this moment. So like this is the issue with civil code. And what are the way forwards? Because at the end of the day, a UCC can only emerge through a evolutionary process, not through a revolutionary process. We need a evolutionary process, or not a random process, but a step by step process, so which preserves India rich legal heritage, of which all personal laws are equal constant. So that should be evolutionary. And the codification and implication of the UCC may not necessarily usher in expected equality among genders and like religion. So equality may not be there. So we have to take very appropriate action that equality is guaranteed. And a major sensitization efforts are needed to reform current personal law, which should first be initiated by communities themselves. So this should be initiated by communities themselves, not by the government, or otherwise that could become another issue. And also current institutions need to be modernized and democratized and strengthened for the changes. Sincere efforts towards women empowerment have to be taken from all for all the women of all religions. So like we have to strengthen our institution before we are going to have this kind of law. And the plural democracy is an identity of modern India, and therefore efforts should be focused on harmony in plurality than blanket uniformity for flourishing Indian democracy. So the plural democracy should be hampered, if will be hampered if a law like this is like blanketized on the whole population. So this is the main issue, one of the major issue with this law. So moving on with the news, fourth news of today is that NHRC seek reports from Center on Economical Weaker Section Housing, that is EWS housing, because NHRC expressed serious concern on the condition of slum resident in Mumbai, and asked the Union Housing and Urban Affairs Secretary for status of the housing for the economical weaker section. And the NHRC said that it had acted on a complaint and is issued to the Ministry of Human and Urban Affairs, Housing and Urban Affairs. And center said that about 58,225 5 houses have been made from 2.24 lakhs house which were about to be made under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. We all know this is one of the major yojana by our Prime Minister Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And now it was in urban part, so it was like urban part of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and the NHRC had sought a response from the ministry within 4 weeks. Earlier in its response of the NHRC, the ministry has said that land and colonization are state subject, so that's why center is not acting on it. So moving on with the news, what is this NHRC basically? So the NHRC, or the National Human Rights Commission, established in 1993, and as an independent body, statutory body, as per the provision of the NHRC Act, Protection of Human Rights Act. So it came in figure from the Act of Protection of Human Rights Act. So it came from an act, hence it is a statutory body. And human rights are, we all know, they are indispensable part of society, and human rights in India are watched by this NHRC body. And NHRC acts as a watchdog of human rights in country, and it looks over rights that are related to life, dignity, liberty, equality, and of that individual, that is defined under section 2 of this PHR Act, that is this Protection of Human Rights Act. This is known as PHR Act also in short form, and they are guaranteed by Constitution of India, like liberty and equality. All these things are guaranteed by Constitution of India, and these are embodied in international conventions also, and are enforced by the Court of India as well. So NHRC was established in compliance with the Paris Principle of Human Rights. Paris Principle of Human Rights. So it came into effect from Paris Principle of Human Rights 1991, and it was adopted for the promotion and protection of human rights, and this was endorsed by United Nations in its General Assembly of 1993. So moving on to a little history of NHRC. So in 1948, what happened, that the UN adopted Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR. UN adopted it, and in 1991, as I have discussed earlier, the Paris Human Rights Paris Principles, popularly known as Paris Principle, they were established in 1991, and National Human Rights Institute, NHRI, were going to be established upon this Paris Principle. And in 1993, UN adopted Paris Principle. So UN adopted this Paris Principle in 1993, and in 1993 itself, India enacted Protection of Human Rights Act, that is PHA, and in this act, this body NHRC was made. So this is the complete history of the NHRC, and we have to now come on to the composition of NHRC. So there is one chairman of NHRC, and that chairman is a retired judge, or sorry, not just judge, he is a retired chief justice of India, and that is the chairman of the NHRC. And it is basically a 8-member body, and first member is one who has been a judge of Supreme Court. One member could be a judge of Supreme Court, and the second member 2, we can call it, who has been a chief justice of High Court. And then there are other 2 members, candidates with the knowledge of practical experience of human right, and 2 candidates which are having knowledge of human rights or practical experience of human rights, and they are this deemed member or ex officio member, we can also call it ex officio member. And the ex officio member can be from deemed members are chairperson of like national commission, like a national commission for minorities, and this national commission for women's, and this national commission for scheduled caste, Similarly, like that, other member is from this kind of national commission. So basically there are 8 members, and these are their analogy. So moving on to the next news. So the next news is that India is to surpass Japan's as Asia's second largest economy by 2030, and its GDP will surpass like Germany and UK to rank at the world number third after China and USA. India will be the one number third economy by 2030. It was a survey released by IHS, and currently India is sixth largest economy. Currently, India is sixth largest economy, and the other economies are US, China, Japan, Germany, and UK. US, China, Japan, Germany, and UK. So these are the countries which are there, and India's nominal GDP is is to be rise about 2.7 million trillion into 2021, and 8.4 trillion 8.4 trillion by 2030. And this rapid pace of economic expansion would result in the size of Indian GDP exceeding Japanese GDP by 2030, and making India the second largest economy in the Asia Pacific after China. And by 2030, the Indian economy would also be larger in size than of the Western European economies of Germany, France, and UK. So, what is the current scenario? So, previously, India had overtaken the UK in 2019 to become the fifth largest economy in the world, but has been replaced in sixth spot in 2020. So in 2019 India was fifth. Now in 2020 India became sixth because UK came, and and India's economy had been losing momentum even ahead of the shock delivered by COVID-19. Before COVID-19 could reach India economy was losing momentum, and the rate of GDP shrank to more than a 10-year low, up to 4.2% in 2019. So the previous growth were like came down in 2019, and the slowing growth rate has been a consequence of factors like fragility of banking system was there, and there was this we all know demonetization was there, and then we all know like there was this GST. So due to these kind of factors, the GDP came down to 4.2% in 2019, and GDP in quarter 2 of April June was 23.9% below what was to be in 2019. So indicating that nearly a quarter of the country's economy activities was wiped out due to the drying up of the global demand and collapse of domestic demand, and because of the lockdown. So about 25% of the country's economy came down due to this lockdown and all the thing. So what are the suggestion which should be employed to so that India can reach back to those at that pace? So the pace of economic recovery will be linked to the development of COVID-19 pandemic. As COVID-19 pandemic will recover, our economy will also recover, and like both domestically and internationally. As the manufacturer of the majority of the world vaccine with a 42-year-old vaccination program, India has like universal health immunization program that targets 55 million person each year. So India is better placed than many other developing countries to have this like successful vacancy program. And in the medium to long term reforms such as 2016 demonetization, and more recently the agriculture sector, there was this liberalization process was going to happen. So these are the things we have to make sure, and we have to also make sure that infrastructure bottlenecks are not there. So infrastructure in India is building up, and also we have to make sure that the government packages which government is giving should be utilized beneficially, so that the person at the standing, or we known as sarvodaya, those kind of person can be a part of the major economy. And we all know that now lockdown is happening again, and this work from home culture is booming. So we have to make utilize that the IT sector is also working in a good condition. And also India is going down with the manufacturing sector, so manufacturing sector should have also to perform. And currently there is this coal issue with India. So coal issue should be negated if we want to have a global economy like that. So these are some suggestion which will help India to become the global economic power, and we can utilize this in our main answer writing. So thank you for all today, and see you tomorrow. Do subscribe to our Telegram channel, and because in Telegram channel we are uploading many of facts related to UPSC and many questions and everything is there. And do subscribe to that, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel also. Thank you.